Hey babe, that title probably sounds dramatic, but I promise this isn't about doing more or becoming someone else. I have been thinking a lot about the energy that I want to carry into 2026. Not loud, not flashy, but aligned. The kind that quietly change how you live when no one's watching. This year, my theme is alignment. And what I mean by that is choosing things and taking actions that actually match my values and the person I want to become, without burning myself out in the process. So today, I want to share 3 quotes that I'm carrying into 2026, not as motivations, but as anchors, the kind that you come back when everything starts to feel noisy. If you're craving peace more than pressure this year, this one is for you. Let's start. My first quote that I'm carrying into this year is less is more. And lately, I have been thinking that it's not just about stuffs, it's also about time, specifically watching. Over the years, I have noticed something about me. I developed a kind of low anxiety, not all at once, but it crept in slowly. And recently, something really clicked for me. I watched a reel where a teacher who works with young children said that you should give a lot of time for kids to prepare because rushing teaches their nervous system that life is always urgent, and that could dangerously turn into anxiety in those kids later on. I just froze because I realized I think my anxiety started developing after my first job. Not because the work itself was bad, but because I was constantly rushing to get ready, rushing to commute, rushing because I was always too optimistic about how long things would take. And here's something interesting about me. I will always be early for flights or job interviews, but I used to be late at work or even a gym session with my personal trainer. Not intentionally, but often. And one of my MBA professors helped me understand why. He said, you probably believe that missing a flight could lead to a serious consequence versus being late at work sounds more forgivable to you. And I think that was right. But in reality, being late consistently is one of the fastest ways to lose credibility, trust, and how people perceive you. But you know what worse? It also backfires your nervous system. So what would happen is this. I would underestimate my commute time, and then I would rush, and then I would arrive stressed, and then I would carry my anxiety and guilt throughout my day. And here's the part that I didn't understand back then. When your body keeps thinking that you're in danger, even small everyday kind of danger like being late, your nervous system goes into fight or flight mode, which means your body is preparing to survive, not to be calm, not to be focused or creative. And when you live in that state too often, it becomes your new reality. Your body starts to think this is normal. So over time in my case, my anxiety didn't just stay at work, it followed me. And this is where it really ties back to less is more. When I start preparing myself less optimistically by leaving earlier, building some buffer, not rushing, I noticed something almost immediately. I felt much calmer, my thoughts were clearer, and my day felt much more spacious. And nothing about my life has actually changed, except I stopped asking it to move faster than it could. And that's when it clicked. Less rushing is more peace. Less urgency is more presence. And less pressure is more clarity. It's the same with food. When you eat your favorite food too often, the magic fades. But when you give it space, you actually get to enjoy it again. Time works the same way. When you give yourself space, your nervous system finally feels safe enough to relax. So when I say less is more, I don't mean doing less to be lazy. I mean doing less violently to yourself. And if you've been feeling anxious, rushed, or slightly behind, this might not be a motivation problem. It might just be a pace problem. If this resonates, you might gently ask yourself, what would feel lighter if I allowed more space? Next, the second quote that I want to carry into this year is, always want to open new doors. This one used to scare me because for a long time, I kept trying to use old strategies for the version of me that no longer existed. What worked really well in the past might not work anymore. And that's not failure. Time changes, context changes, you change. Even seasons change. So why do we expect to stay the same and assume that using the same strategies would guarantee the same success? For a long time, I didn't even question this. I was very good at school. I thrive in exam environments. I earned first class honor. I passed the level 1. Before graduation, I was so calm, focused, and clear. So when I later decided to pursue an MBA in the US, which required me to take a GMAT exam, I assumed I would approach it the same way. But I wasn't the same person anymore. My nervous system has changed, my life has changed. My ability to stay calm under exam environments wasn't where it used to be. And when I got my first GMAT score, it felt like a tragedy. I felt embarrassed, like I'm super disappointed about myself, like I wasn't good enough. Looking back, I think a big part of that pain actually come from ego. From being attached to the old identity of a person who aced exams. What's interesting is that after the first results, I doubled down on the same strategy. I practiced harder, I bought and took mock exams over and over and over until my scores looked great. 720, 730, that gave me confidence. I thought, okay, I got this. This is just like CFA. But when I took the real exam again, guess what? My score was even lower than the first one. And then I kept trying. More practice, same methods. And eventually my score improved. But it never reached what I believed it should be. Not until very recently that I have realized something about this. The problem wasn't effort. It wasn't because of my intelligence, but I believe it's because my nervous system was dysregulated. During the GMAT exam, my mental shadow was so loud. Like, oh, am I going to pass this exam? Something must be wrong within me. I never had that kind of noise during my CFA exams or even in the previous exams, during college time. What I probably needed back then wasn't more practice. It was learning how to regulate myself. That realization also helped me understand my brother more. He was always struggle with exams. He would say I had the need to leave the exam rooms to use restrooms, or he just feeling unwell. And at that time back then, I didn't understand anything about what he said. I thought maybe it's just his excuse. And now I understand something very different. His nervous system was dysregulated. When our body is in fight or flight mode, our brain cannot perform the way we want it to. And that was my lesson. Always didn't help me open that door because I had changed. Another experience made this even clearer for me. Last year, I tore my ACL. And after surgery and months of physical therapy, I finally returned to the gym. Before the injury, I like to stay very far from the cycling classes or bar classes. I love running, high-intensity workout, or functional classes. But suddenly, those weren't my options anymore. I can't run yet, I cannot jump yet. And surprisingly, cycling and bar classes become one of the only few classes that I could do. And I actually enjoy them. Something I once avoided becomes something that supported me now. Same person, different body, different needs. And that's the point. Time changes, context changes, you change. And that's okay. If you have been feeling behind lately, I want you to hear this very clearly. You're not behind. You might just be trying to use old key on new doors. Letting go of past wins is hard. Being bad at new things is also uncomfortable. But trying awkwardly or imperfectly, that's how I realize that's where the joy comes back. That's where presence starts to feel like happiness again. You may ask yourself, what strategy used to work for me, but feels heavy now? And let me know in the comment. Last, my third quote that I'm carrying into 2026 is, work harder on yourself than your job. I just learned about this one very recently, but it really stayed with me. It was one of those quiet aha moments, the kind of you suddenly realize you are the assets, not your job title, not your role, not your revenue number. Those things matter, but you matter more. And I don't mean it in a hustle way, not in a grind until you break way. I mean it in a 1% better everyday kind of way. Working on yourself looks much simpler than many people think. It could just look like keeping small promises to yourself. For example, choosing micro habits that help you calm your nervous system. Maybe it's meditating for 5 minutes every morning, or taking rest when you need it, or catching negative self-talk and gently interrupt it. It looks like showing up consistently, not intensely. Taking action even when it's small, or even when it's hard. Reading just one page before bed. Walking for 10 minutes every day. Or drinking a little bit more water today than yesterday. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You need tiny promises you actually keep. Even 0.1% growth a day could eventually compound into 44% growth at the end of the year. It adds up. That's how confidence built. That's how trust within yourself grows. That's how progress compounds without burning you out. And that's how 2026 becomes different. Not louder, not harder, just aligned. You don't have to take my word for it. You can try it and see what chips for you. If you want to start small, ask yourself this. What's one promise you could actually keep today? And this is actually why I created my 2026 Life Upgrade Gift Guide. Not to fix you, not because you're behind, but to support the version of you that you're already becoming. For slower days, clearer minds, and a gentler, stronger relationship with yourself. If you want something that feels like support, not pressure, I will leave it linked below. If you're entering this year wanting more peace than pressure, this is your reminder. You're doing better than you think. Set this for the days you might forget that. Or send it to someone that might need a big sis reminder today. I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye!